What do you get when a London-raised American South African and a New York-raised Moroccan meet on the interwebs and become instant soul sisters? One of them, an Ayurvedic practitioner and transformation coach, and the other, a Conspire breathwork coach and Reiki master teacher. Both obsessed with wellness, family, entrepreneurship, relationships, and the magic of human expansion and growth. You get a whole convo. We truly believe that with an open heart, focused mind, and energy receptive to the possibilities, your wellness journey can guide you to a life that exceeds your wildest dreams. Welcome to our podcast. We're Ella and Ymane, and we are so happy you're here. Come vibe with us as we explore the wholeness of being through the lens of wellness. Ymane, you're looking radiant.
Ooh, thank you. Just
Yes.
trying to match your vibe.
I'm receiving that. Thank you, my darling. Now, I'm excited about this conversation that we're having right now because it's all about you, Ymane.
Ooh,
Yes, we're going to take some time to get to know who the woman Ymane is.
me
And
time.
yes, you like the spotlight is 100% on you, baby. It's on you because, I've got to know you very quickly and loved getting to know you and continue to get to know you. But this is an opportunity to bring in the people who are listening, who are tuning in, watching us to find out a bit more about you. So I'm going to kick off. I'm just going to ask you a question, one question. Tell us something that you really would like us to know about you.
That I really want? Hmm, that's a challenging question.
Let's see what you've
What?
got.
Because for me, okay, this will say a lot about me. For me, the first thing that comes to my mind with that question is what does really mean? Like, why would I want it to be something I really want people to know about me? And then my head goes to a million places because there's just so much. The whole learning about someone, there's so many facets to it, right? Like is it my upbringing? Is it my childhood? Where was I born? My background, like where I'm at now, my current life,
Oh,
my dreams, my aspirations. That's
I
how my
love all
mind
of
works.
I love all of that, and we can get into some of that. So let me rephrase it then. This is like a shortcut. It's something that may not always be obvious when someone is getting to know you, but you would really like someone to have this information about you because it might be an important aspect of who you are. It might be something that maybe you keep concealed because you're a bit shy about it, or it could be something.
You know what I'm saying? That already there's like a million questions. Okay, first of all, I am obsessed with details.
Love that.
Okay, I am clearly because I'm already asking what exactly do you
Tell
I
me.
have an obsession with details and information and just like explore like knowing and unraveling things. I
Mm.
feel like in my past lifetime I might have been a really high level detective or investigator. I
Oh,
mean, there must be something because when I tell you it's an obsession, it is an obsession.
I love that so much.
And it
That
lights me up. Like when I find out something or or someone gives me something and it has detail, it's like orgasmic. Like I'm like, ooh. I would say details and structure and organization is a little obsession of mine that a lot of people don't know about. My husband definitely knows about it. Sorry, babe.
see, that's juicy information. Like that is your sweet spot. That's something that gets you going then.
Oh, I'm in love with anyone who provides that for me in life. Details, structure, organization. I love you.
That is, I love knowing that about you. And it's just so interesting because yes, it comes through in
some of the things that I hear you say to me, it makes so much sense.
Okay,
And
good.
it's beautiful as well to know that you bring that aspect into your life and you bring that to your work, I imagine as well.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. I do have a very passionate and committed way of doing things in my life. And I think that's why I love details so much because it makes me feel like I'm going to be prepared to give the most and to have the best experience, not only for myself, but anyone that's in my, world, right? Because
Mm.
I have that details. I feel like it almost negates like the aspect of vagueness and generality, which is cool, but sometimes it makes me feel like, okay, and there's a void there.
Do you know what I loved about that? How much
Pushing.
your whole body language was like that goes
Don't look at
deep.
me.
It goes deep. Thank you so much for sharing that, Iman.
You're
So
welcome.
these are
Thank you for providing more details to be able to answer it in a very clear manner, in a way that resonated with me.
oh, oh just the vibes of the vibes.
What about you? Are you like more kind of just,
Oh no, this is about you, girl. This is about you.
oh, the whole, okay.
This is about you. So let's go
You've
back.
entrapped me.
Let's go back to the beginning. What are the experiences that you feel shaped you growing up in your life?
Beautiful question. Love that. With the very beginning, I mean, as soon as I like think about my beginnings and childhood and just like really what shaped my life, it's family, 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 and culture and roots. I was born in Morocco. I was born in Casablanca.
Hmm.
My mom was born in the northern part of Morocco. So both my parents are Moroccan, but have very different like lives, given that they're both Moroccan and different contexts and backgrounds and like their whole worlds are literally black and white, honestly. So my mom was born in the northern part of Morocco, Nador. So she's Amazigh, she's Rifian, which is the indigenous people of Morocco. They are the true Moroccans. Before the Arabs invaded, lots of land and most of the continent.
Uh,
But so she lived
ca-
in
ca-
the north.
Sorry, can I just pick up on that point just really quickly? I love that you say how you say like, it's obvious and that you shared this because I think so many people would not even realize this to be the case, that it was an invasion of Arabs or the Arab world
Oh, that's
into North
true. You're
Africa.
right. Good on you, babe, for even saying that. You're right. A lot of people don't know. Like Morocco as a country, as a people, as a land, as a culture, the roots of it is the Amazigh people, the tribe that lived there before the Arabs, Spaniards, and then later the French invaded that land. So my mother is from those roots. She is the original people of Morocco, and it's called Amazigh. So she's from there. But when she was 3 years old, her mom and stepdad moved to Germany.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the stepdad had work. They moved for work. But actually that's a common thing to happen in Morocco and in a lot of northern African countries. When families migrate, usually it's to Europe. So there's a lot of Moroccans in Belgium, France, and Germany. So my mom went to Germany at 3 years old. She speaks
Wow.
fluent German to this day.
Wow.
And then my dad, born and raised in Morocco, he's from Casablanca. He was a flight attendant. So he knows several languages and he's like a world traveler and, a linguistic, just fanatic. He's a brilliant man. And so he knew German when he met my mom, because that's actually the only language she spoke besides the original language of Rifian, because she didn't speak Arabic because she's not Arab. So my dad couldn't speak to her in Arabic, Moroccan
Wow.
Darija, when he met her. He could only
Wow.
communicate with her in German. So lucky for him, he knew the language and they actually met on a plane.
That's just wow.
Isn't that wild?
Wow. And
They met
how
in the air, in the sky, in
like there's just so many things.
the
Elevated
clouds.
love story in the clouds, divine connection. Wow.
Yeah, crazy, right? So they met while my mom was traveling between Morocco and Germany. And so my dad was the cabin manager. He worked for the airline. So he
Wow.
was,
That's
working, doing his work. Look
so
how
it's
I
like
do my shoulders.
literally
Like that's my dad. That's my
that's
dad.
how he works.
I'm like shaking my shoulders down the aisle. I just imagine him like strutting his gorgeous self down the aisles of the plane, catching my mom's eyes. Anyway, long story short, because this would be a very, very long story. So, my parents are Moroccan. My mom lived in Germany. They met on an airplane. They fell in love. They got married. My mom went back to Morocco after she married my dad just for a few years. But remember, keep in mind, she lived in Germany since she was 3 years old. So, she's a Western gal. It just wasn't, she didn't acclimate. She wanted a
It's a bit of a culture shock.
culture shock. And it was actually beautiful because my dad was a flight attendant and he's been all around the world. He used to visit New York several times throughout the month for his work. And when he and my mom would travel all over the world, because they traveled together all the time, that was one of the perks of the relationship. Is the travel, obviously. So they would go to New York all the time, and that was their favorite place in the entire world, NYC.
Wow.
And so that's why
Wow.
they decided to move here um, when we were young. So I was 6 years old, and my sister was 8 when we moved to New York City in 1992. The 90s era, New York City. Are you kidding me? It was like talk about like one of the greatest gifts in life. I swear that era, no one will ever understand unless they like lived it because it's pure magic, and it was incredible. So when my parents moved to New York City, obviously we had to learn the language. I was 6 years old. My mom had to register us in school.
So hold on, what language were you speaking at this point then?
Moroccan Darija. So fluent. My mother tongue is Moroccan Arabic, which is called Darija. And the reason why we spoke that language is because number one, only my parents spoke German to one another. We lived in Morocco until I was 6. So we obviously did do a year, myself anyway. I did a year or two in school. My sister did a little bit more. So that's the language. And then French was the second language. And while I knew a little bit, I was still young. I was 6 years old. So at home is the language that was really what stayed with me, which is Moroccan Arabic. So
Mhm.
we spoke Darija fluently. My parents spoke Moroccan Darija fluently, obviously. My dad taught my mom that though, because when they met,
Wow.
they were only speaking German and he
German.
doesn't know her language. Isn't that crazy?
But
They're
this is
from
the
the
thing.
same, yeah,
The language is such a big part of it, and you have such a rich linguistic spectrum in your house, and there's only a few points where everyone crosses.
exactly.
That's
Yeah, like, do
wow.
you think my parents would have ended up being together if he didn't speak German?
Exactly.
Like, what if my dad
Exactly.
was just, he was a flight attendant there, and not to say that doesn't happen, because I'm sure people get together and they don't know a lick of each other's language. I get that for sure, and I know that's possible. But I'm just saying, look at that perfection and look at that divinity, right? That my dad, of all the languages he speaks, German is one of them. That's where she grew up. That was her language that she spoke, besides obviously her native tongue, which is Rifian. He doesn't know Rifian because he's not Amazigh. It's just, yeah. So, and again, because there's so many aspects to the languages just within that couple, they didn't want to drive their daughters crazy. It's just
By
my sister
adding
and I
more.
and go crazy. So they kept it pretty simple. They're like, only speak Moroccan Arabic at the house. No English, nothing else. You learn English and you speak English outside of the home because they didn't want us to lose our mother tongue, which I am so grateful that
Mm.
they were that strict and that they had that thought process because till this day, I'm 39 years old. I have lived in the States since I was 6. I've traveled everywhere. And when I still go back home to Morocco, people can like they're like, it's insane that you lived over 30 years in the States. Like I can still communicate with my family and the people of my country and it's a beautiful thing.
That is such a beautiful thing, Iman.
I freaking love you.
It's it's when I come to share my experience, I'll show you how jealous I am of that thought process that your parents had because it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear your experience with like how your parents met. I feel like it's always such an interesting question to ask people, right? Like how, you know, their parents met or even how they met their loved one, because that's like what life is. It's just these like choices we make, these experiences, these opportunities that sometimes we can never ever expect to happen, but they literally shape the rest of our trajectory. Because here we are
Exactly.
now. Like I'm a New Yorker because of my parents.
And if we just briefly connect that into my story,
Yes, please.
you grew up in Queens, right? So you grew up
Damn
Astoria,
right.
Queens.
Astoria, Queens.
And then Astoria is just a little over from where my mum grew up in Richmond
Insane.
Hill, Queens. And it's like, that's a whole convo.
Yeah,
But just
that's a whole other conversation.
like where that overlaps in our connection from Morocco to New York to Germany to Sweden, because I've got German connections through my mother's family as well, and South Africa through my dad. So there's just mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing. So coming back to you, and I love this story about how your parents met and you came over to New York. You said that family is the thing that shaped you. So is your parents' story something that has been an influence on you? How exactly has family left that imprint on you?
Yeah, my family has shaped me because it's such a unique dynamic and I think a lot of people can relate to this because obviously everyone's family has a role in their life and their way that they perceive things and the way they perceive people and the way they understand life. And so for me, I say that because of so many aspects that I think had a really deep impact on me and my life personally, because my family is super close. You know, we're just very closely knit people, and family is so important to us, and our culture is so important to us. And in that same breath, it was oftentimes such a challenge
Mm.
to be authentic, to be expressive, to be me, to explore life in that dynamic. And so that's why I say family, because it's not like in the sense of family, that's what, shaped my life. I don't know where I'd be without my family. For sure, that's valid, but it's also like that gave me a lot of trauma too.
Mm.
Like there's a lot there as well. So my family, my parents, my culture, growing up in a religious household, having only one other sibling that, you're close with, but then there's phases in your life that you are learning about one another. Your mom, her trauma, her background, her life, your dad, his background. So for me personally, those have been, I think, the deepest parts of what shaped me and what led me to do a lot of the work that I do in my life, honestly. Because I it may seem like it's so separate and not connected, but a lot of the things that I'm passionate about and a lot of the things that I decided to invest my energy and time and money and life to is rooted in me making the choice to become my most authentic self.
Wow.
And being my most authentic self was not something that was available to me as a kid. So there's that.
Thank you, Iman. I feel like we want that to settle because there's so much in that. There's just so
Sure.
much in that.
No,
And
it's deep. It's deep, girl.
and I appreciate you for sharing it so eloquently or giving that perspective so eloquently because I'm sure
Oh,
so
thank
many
you.
people can relate to that, can resonate, particularly when we're looking at situations where families have migrated, whatever the circumstance is.
Mm,
If your family has moved away from the place they have, they have roots or have grown up in, whether that's ethnically, whatever it is, and they move to a different place, there's another element of keeping that connection and that identity from the
yes.
place they've moved from, which adds another layer onto who we are expected to become or how we navigate our understanding of life in this new space, in this new place. So I'm sure many, many people
100%.
can relate to that, Iman. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of families who are so, indoctrinated and just influenced by religion, that has a role as well, right? I mean, it doesn't really, honestly, I don't think it matters what exactly the religion is, just
Mm,
when my experience has taught me and my observations have taught me that when there's a family that is majorly influenced by a religion, it does impact the upbringing and the childhood of the person because a lot of their parenting ways and the thought processes and what is allowed or what isn't allowed is rooted in that religion and those, quote unquote rules, right?
mm-hmm,
And so it does by default have a suppressive and limiting impact on whoever is going to be influenced by that kind of upbringing and thought process. And so that has definitely been my experience. And I've worked very hard and diligently and with a lot of detail
and structure.
and structure and organization to really get to a place in my life where I can look at that. I can look back at my childhood. I can look back at the choices my parents made and see it with so much love and compassion and understanding,
Mm,
while still understanding that that may not be aligned with how I think, how I want to live, and still have the compassion and understanding and respect for it while being true to myself.
mm.
That's a big part of my life and what makes me who I am for sure.
And it sounds like it was intrinsic in a healing for you and how you've reconciled these different aspects of your experience.
100%. 100%. A big, big part of my healing journey has been directly related to what I just mentioned for sure. And that's why I even said, like, it may not seem related, but even the work I do now, like, even really quickly to say how I even got to Ayurveda. It's pretty crazy when I think about it. Till this day, it blows my mind that I was always a fit person. I was always a healthy person. I actually used to be a personal trainer, fitness manager, used to be an athlete. My parent, health was never an issue for me, was never a thing. Struggling with weight was never a thing. Around 35 years old, I would say. So, or a little bit like less than that, maybe 34. So about 5 to 6 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
um, I reached a rough patch in my life that led me to, being totally disconnected from myself, depression, started overeating, stress eating, gained over 40 pounds of weight, didn't recognize myself anymore. It was not me, it was total neglect. And when I started doing the work, and really digging deep, it was all related to my childhood and my trauma and my emotions and my lack thereof of regulating them, understanding them, suppressing things that I didn't even realize I was suppressing,
Mm-hmm.
not self-expressing. And then when I started doing the work, and that led me to Ayurveda because Ayurveda is such a beautiful ancient science literally translating to the science of life, I got into Ayurveda because the weight gain and my health took me down a path of chronic digestive issues. And
I love how you're
Ayurveda,
smiling when you're saying that.
yeah, I'm smiling because I know it's so funny that I'm smiling about it because it's so crazy how that works. Like I'm still blown away. That's
Mm,
why I'm obsessed and passionate about the work I do. I'm
yeah.
smiling because isn't that crazy? You gain 40 pounds, you get digestive issues, you think, oh, it's this physical thing, gotta eat right again. Like as if I didn't know the right things to eat. It's so much deeper than that. Our mind and body connection is so much deeper to that. And I think that's why I do the work that I do, and I've come to be, so fascinated and love Ayurveda so much, just like so many other modalities that I love that are holistic, right? So, it still blows my mind how all of it is so beautifully interconnected.
And you can't make it up. You literally couldn't look at those pieces based on the trajectory of your life, like you said about being, you were an athlete, you were into fitness, you were into taking care of yourself. You couldn't imagine yourself there. So, can we go back to that part of you and how you experienced, looking after yourself? Like, what did that look like? And I'm asking you this because I think it's so fascinating when people don't necessarily make the connection. So, please, can you give us the background about your taking care of yourself? You said being an athlete, being someone who's really into your health. What did that look like for you?
What did it look like for me when I was?
It sounds like this is something that it had your whole life. That was just who you.
Yes. Well, it was, seeing my dad take care of himself. That was huge. My dad, you know, he'll be 70 in July, and both my parents look amazing for their age, but their health has always been a big part of our lives. My dad is a runner. He takes really great care of his health in the sense of always learning and reading and growing in the field of longevity and clean eating and all those things, right, that really matter to those people who want to make their health a priority. He's always been that kind of person. And so it's been a great influence in my life and definitely has impacted me to care that much as well because I saw it in the household. My mom is a chef, and so you know, that's what her profession has been for over 30 years. So we grew up with someone who always cooked at home, always, had something going on in the kitchen. I learned how to cook when I was 7 years old. So just those aspects, right? They influence you. And as you get older, you start implementing some of the things you learned. So that was big. And then when we were kids, my dad put my sister and I in a lot of activities, right? Obviously, because we had a lot of energy and that's just what you do with the kiddos, right? And so we did taekwondo and gymnastics and swimming and tennis and all the things. And the thing that I loved the most and that I continued on later into my life was swimming. And so I swam in high school and I swam in college. So yeah, in that aspect, athleticism and health has always been a major, major part of my life. Then I got into weight training when I became a personal trainer and, a little bit of CrossFit and Olympic weightlifting and kettlebell training. And I just, again, became obsessed with, and fascinated by learning all these tools, right?
The
That's another thing
details.
about me. Yeah, the details, exactly. Is just elevation, man. Elevation and expansion of self. Like that's another obsession of mine. So, yeah, being able to cultivate the body you desire, the health that you want, that's always been a big part of me. That's why I knew it was so deep, the mind and body connection, and was so excited about learning it and love that Ayurveda happened to be what came into my world to introduce me to that aspect. Because there's a million and one ways to explain that,
Mm,
right? But that really did it for me, understanding that it wasn't so much about, the things that we check off on a list, but more about like the deep inner work. And so that's what was for me that missing gap and
mm-hmm.
where I'm
I,
at now.
and I think that's great that you explain that health and taking care of your body physically, like you say, the things that we imagine we should be doing to look after ourselves was not something that was
What were we saying?
that this idea of really being locked into taking care of yourself was not something alien to you.
Right.
You know, it wasn't something that was like, oh, I did it kind of a little bit. It was part of the examples, the things that were modeled for you, and the information that you had access through growing up. You know, going back to saying your family shaped you. This is one of the ways your family shaped you, in incorporating that into your lifestyle, having that approach to physical care that was really deep, it was consistent, and it was ingrained. And still you experience challenges. And I think that's something to drive home, because we can be under the impression that as long as we're doing the surface level things, like you said, checking things off the list. Am I eating the right food? Am I moving enough? Am I doing all the things I'm supposed to? Then there shouldn't be any reason why something uncomfortable happens. Why should I have gut issues? Why should whatever fill in your blank is? And so you had that experience, you had that care, you had that understanding on quite a deep level,
Right.
and then challenges were still there. So
Yeah.
when did you start to notice these challenges? You mentioned around 35, was it?
Yeah. So let me tell you something about that, because it's something that is very, how should I put it? Very personal, of course, and, vulnerable, but very real, and changed my life. And what happened, right, around 34, 35, is that things began to surface that I, number one, either did not even know were a thing,
Mm,
like real, or two, have been ignoring and not really addressing for
mhm,
decades and decades and decades. So it was almost like a form of self-sabotage, if you
mhm,
will. Like
mhm.
this rebellion that you feel, being having these suppressed emotions, or having things that surface from childhood that you don't even know what to do with, right?
Yeah,
There's only but so much that can happen with it. And for me, what happened was like the neglect, the self-neglect, and that level of, middle finger in the air, as they say, being so low, so lost. And how do I even handle all these things? All the things that maybe I felt so limited in as a kid, so suppressed, not knowing how to manage those emotions, the relationships with our, parents, like the things that influenced us, that you look back and you're like, wow, did I really live my life the way I wanted to as a 20-year-old, as a 25-year-old, as a 30-year-old? And the answer was no for me.
mm,
And those emotions and that despair, if you will, and
mm,
that confusion and that feeling is what led me that to that path of disconnecting from myself, overeating, stress eating, which then again, like obviously cause and effect, brought in the weight gain, the digestive issues, et cetera, et cetera. And then my path to healing that, of course, led me to Ayurveda and led me to learn more about like why that even happened,
yeah.
and why it's so important to do the inner work.
Okay, so I wanted to pick up on some of that, because I always find it fascinating when I work with clients, and there's certain questions that I might ask in trying to understand their awareness of how certain patterns might be happening in their life, certain thoughts, certain emotional and behavioral patterns might be showing up again and again. And it's so funny that with hindsight, we can see it's a lot clearer for us to notice these things. But I can imagine that at the time, you said you felt that disconnection for yourself. You weren't even really aware that it was happening. It was just kind of your you already caught up in a cycle that was beginning to unravel. And
Exactly. It's
it
like you're in
wasn't,
a trance.
yeah, and it wasn't until further down the line when the digestive issues were actually screaming at you, or the weight gain was so obvious, that you started to actually look back and see what had been happening or what contributed to that.
I think the really tipping point is when I realized this is not even who I am.
Mm.
This is not who I am. This is why I'm so big with being very clear on what exactly is the intention and is the root of wanting to create change. It wasn't so much like, okay, someone's overweight, they need to lose weight. For sure, there's a health aspect to it. There's that. There's a whole, list of things for sure that are valid and
Mhm.
that are scientific and that are correct for bettering our cellular function, for our health, all of that. Of course. I mean, that's what I studied, right? And like my degrees and my education is in all that. But what I'm saying is when I realized I am leading myself away, further and further away from my deeper self, from my
Mm.
authentic self, from my real self by doing all these things that have, yes, created this result that physically looks like this, aesthetically looks like this, th- all of those things. That's when I knew I had to do something,
Mm.
is because I didn't feel like me anymore and I didn't want to live like that anymore.
That was not acceptable.
No.
That's so powerful. That is so powerful, Iman. So this is another beautiful nugget of understanding what drives you in your work, why you feel so connected to it.
Oh, I just got chills you saying that. Yeah, I am so deeply connected to it. So
Mm.
deep. And I think especially for me personally, because I think I did it. You know how like some people say like I feel like I live two lives, or like there's like, or someone lives like a double life. I feel like I did it in one aspect because I was in the health. Like I was a personal trainer. I did help most of my clients that came to me. Most of them came for weight loss. It's like full circle. And I did it
Yeah.
in the gym with them, and I did it with nutrition, and I did it with health. And of course, I still do that with some of my clients. But now here's full circle because of my experience that I went through. I have become the kind of coach and practitioner that while I can still help someone with their weight loss, it's from a deeper place. It's rooted in authenticity and
Hmm.
emotions and choices and responsibility and power and integrity and life as a whole, the
And
wholeness of it.
I
Ah,
love that. I love that. And it also gives, that understanding that it is about the journey, not just I want to look like this.
say it, girl. Say it again. Pose in the back.
I just love
Yes,
this.
exactly. That's the thing. And that's why a lot of the times, because trust me, that journey of mine, it was over 40 pounds away. It wasn't a linear journey by any means. Literally, just like life with anything else, it wasn't this clear linear path. There was so much, I didn't start therapy until that time in my life. I may have never seen, I mean, never say never. I don't know what my life would have been like if I didn't go through that. Could have been something else that led me to therapy. But my reality is,
Mm,
I didn't even realize or think I needed therapy.
mm.
How does someone who's so happy, I am a freaking happy person. Like, I swear, anyone, I am happy. I have an incredible family. Like I told you, you heard, right? Great parents. I have an incredible sister. At that time, even while I was going through that, I'm still married to the same. I have an incredible husband, a unicorn of a man partner, some of the greatest sisters and besties in the world. How does someone that great go to therapy, need therapy, right? And so those are the things that make me so grateful
Mm.
and really present with what's out there for us, the resources out there for us, the reality of our own growth journey and our healing, no matter what the side effect is. Yes, the side effect happened to be that I reignited my inner intelligence, reconnected with myself, started learning about my mind body connection. And yes, that helped me lose all the weight and get back to the things I already knew to do, right? But woo, was it a whole roller coaster of a ride.
And so juicy. So
I wouldn't have thought it was
juicy.
juicy then. There were times where, and I know you can, and I'm sure when, when we really get to the deeper stuff of your world and your life, Ella, and because I adore you and so many of your things that I already know about you, you can relate to this, that sometimes there's actually nothing better that can happen for us except hitting like that freaking rock bottom. I literally was on the floor, Ella, when I tell you. You know how people ask, like, was there an event that happened? Like, what was it? I was on the bathroom floor of a hotel room. Ymane and I were going to his aunt's wedding in Florida. We drove from LA to Florida.
No, Rain is Iman's husband.
Yeah, AKA Nye. Hubby and I were traveling, road tripping from LA to Florida for a wedding. Road trip snacks, crazy. This is during that time, like I told you that. So it was adding care, right? All the neglect. We took a rest stop. I went to the bathroom to shower. You got to be naked to go in the shower. I literally took a quick look in the mirror because I have been avoiding mirrors for a while and I literally didn't even recognize myself. And when I say that, I don't even mean, that's the crazy thing. I don't even mean from an aesthetic place. Clearly, duh. It's like, duh. Obviously, I've never been 40 pounds overweight before. Yes, that wasn't recognizable. I mean, I was like, who are you that got you? What happened, mamita, as my mother-in-law would say? What happened, mamita? And I was on the floor sobbing. And, my husband came in the bathroom. I threw all the snacks down the toilet. I said, that's it. I said, I'm done. That was the day I made a decision.
Wow, that was your come back home to me moment.
That was, oh, I love that. That was definitely my come back home to me moment.
Ooh, let's take a breath there, girl,
Oh,
because I'm feeling you.
because
Well,
that woman, that girl, I feel for her and what she went through, and I'm so freaking proud of her for doing the work. It is work, capital WORK, caps lock. Work,
underscore, underscore, underscore.
Underscore, underline,
Underline, underscore, under everything. Bold. All
and
of it.
above all else.
I'm so proud of you for connecting in with that moment and being able to share it with us. Thank you, Ymane. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you.
No, thank you.
And I feel like let's bring in, we talked about that being your come back to me moment. Are there any other defining moments through your life so far that you feel can help us understand the woman you are today?
I don't know why I just laughed, but I thought of something silly that I did. That well,
Let's hear it.
not silly, just kind of crazy. I ungraduated college.
What does that mean?
I always laugh thinking about this story because it's like, how do you tell it without sounding absolutely insane?
Off your rocker. Now I definitely, come on, let's hear it, girl.
All right, so this is undergrad. I'm talking about undergrad, not grad school, but okay, so in university, I was a biology major, psychology minor, and I was pre-dental. So in that time in my life when I was in college, I was gonna go to dental school. Like I became obsessed with braces and orthodontics in high school
I
after
love
getting myself.
that.
Look at these teeth.
Woo!
You think I had a gap. So everything was actually the same, except I had a big gap here in the middle, and my mom was not having it. She was
Not for
like,
her
"You're getting
baby.
braces." And I didn't want them. I was like, "No, braces in high school." I was a junior. I was like, "Mom, prom is like around what?" She said this. She goes, "When you're 20, you're gonna thank me. You're gonna be so glad you got those braces and you fixed your teeth." So anyway, that was the whole orthodontics. So yes, I ended up getting braces. I think I had them for a little bit less than 2 years. Yes, I am grateful. Yes, thank you, mom.
You,
Thank you, mom.
you were
Thank you,
right.
mama. You were right. So that's what I was like, I want to do that for people. I want to, give
Oh,
them.
you want to be that life-changing impact.
Yeah, there you go. That's another thing that's for sure. Oh my God, I am obsessed with life-changing. I cry like my husband too. I think that's another thing that connects us so deeply. We are obsessed with life-changing impact and seeing people win. Like we cry, we sob at everything, every win, every like struggle story, everyone getting like we just have a soft spot for that. So anyway, I was like, I want to do that for people. I want to give them a smile, they're confident. So I was like, I'm going to dental school. This is what I want to do, blah, blah, blah. I realized that I did not want to do that.
When
And it
it
was
came
just
to
like,
looking at
again,
people's mouths.
well, not even that, right? Because it's like I wanted to do that then. What I'm saying, here's what I'm saying. This takes me back to the whole family thing
Okay.
and the whole authenticity thing. You're wrapped up in this whirlwind and ball of like what you think you should do, what you think is best to make parents proud, you know, what seems correct, what seems like the normal thing to
Yeah, like
do.
you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly. And so that's where that all, came about. And anyway, long story short, you have to have like obviously, a crazy GPA to even get into med school and dental school, of course, all of that. I was
So
like
for our non-American listeners, people watching in, a GPA is
grade point
grade point
average.
average, yeah. And
Yeah,
what does that mean?
grade point average. It's basically the average total summation of all your grades in all the classes. It's basically the American way of judging your educational level. So 4.0 is the highest. Anyway, long story short, I was point one away from my GPA being like what it needs to be to apply to dental school.
Oh my
And I was an
God.
athlete in college. So as an athlete, remember I was on the swim team in college. As an athlete, you get your physical education waived, like your requirement, because everyone in college, the university I went to anyway, but most universities I feel like in the States are like this, a 4-year undergrad anyway. You have to have a physical like education class to pass, like to graduate.
Wow.
At the time anyway. This is in the 2000s. So it's probably not like that anymore. So because you're an athlete, you get that waived. And if you have a class waived, then that means that's not a score that is calculated. Anyway, this is what I'm saying. How do you say this story without sounding insane? My obsession with details and research investigation, and why I think I was a detective in my past life, or at least one of my past lives, I was a detective, is I figured out a way if I have my GPA impacted in a way where I actually need my physical education, then they will, and I take a summer class that I know I can get an A in, that a perfect score in, that'll impact my score. It'll
Yeah.
change it. I can ungraduate, and then they can tally up that average. And then when they tally up that new
Let
average,
me tell you, you do sound crazy.
yeah, exactly. But this is why I giggled when you asked me. But doesn't that say so much? Like, who would go the
Into
lengths?
the depth.
the lengths and the depths that I would go to create a solution for myself. I needed this GPA to even apply. I didn't have it. I was so close. I knew there was just a little thing. I literally walk into the dean's office with a folder, my
Color coded.
transcript. What'd you say?
Color coded.
Highlighted. Okay. My transcript, my grades, and had a whole literally dissertation to her presentation about how I need to figure out this GPA. And I have an idea, and I know it's crazy, but here's what we can do. And let me tell you, I walked out of that room and we did it. I took a summer class. I ungraduated, needed a physical education waiver, took a summer class, got an A in it. I got the GPA that I needed to apply to dental school. Bam. I did not go to dental school.
I think this is the perfect example. Ymane, this tells us so much about you. Your dedication, your creativity, your in-depth analysis, your search for another way, a solution, your desire to present it in a way that makes it accessible to other people, your determination to go and stand and speak your solution, to give it to an audience, to sell your story, and to get the outcome. You said a lot, girl. I love this. The round of applause to you. And just like we don't need to know anything else. This is just amazing.
Literally the perfect way to end this, because this whole like how do we get to know Ymane story, because that's why I giggled when you said that. Because when I tell you that is just a smidge of the things that I've done in my life.
The mind boggles, girl.
That always comes to my mind because I'm like, wow. Again, thinking of that woman, that girl, like, look at you going in there. I was mortified. I was so terrified. When I told this story to my best friend in college, she was crying, laugh. She was in tears. She was like, Ymane, you're crazy. There's no what. Oh, but she loved it. She was like, yeah. And when I came back after, because we were rooming that summer, the summer class we took, we were roomies. We were screaming, jumping up and down. And I literally think only maybe 3 or 4 people in this whole planet Earth know this story. Again, how do you say it? How do you even explain it?
I think you did a beautiful job.
Know.
You did a beautiful job of explaining it. It did not make you sound uninsane, and I love you even more for it. It's perfection.
I will take insane with a solution and drive and love and dedication over it.
And creativity and bravery, courage, all of the things. No, I love this for you. And I'm so glad that we got to bring this into our space.
I love that we did. I love that
many people.
You are so, first of all, you're so beautiful and so gorgeous inside and out, but you're so brilliant. This was so much fun. This was a blast. And it is so important for us to really share these stories. Don't we forget, like now I'm in this like nostalgic vibe right now, thinking about that day that I went into that teen's office with my little folder and highlighted transcript.
And how old were you when you did this?
I mean, I was 22.
I love it.
Maybe 20. I went to college because I graduated at 17. Yeah, no, I was like 20.
I love
20 or 21.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about Nyla, my youngest, taking that trip, doing all of. I just love it. I love it. And this is the perfect place to end it. I did have one more thing to say. It's slipped my mind. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Is you talking about you feeling nostalgic? Isn't it true how we take the things that we've done for granted? They just get assigned to the memory banks, and we just forget how amazing we are. Yeah.
I feel like we need to invent something, Ella. We need like celebration parties quarterly or every month where we celebrate one very specific thing that we've done that we forgot about in the past, no matter how little,
Or how long ago?
share it with one another.
Yes.
And literally have a cheers and a celebration and a scream and a jump and a laugh about it.
There we go. We've just invented it.
That's it.
It's happening.
That's it.
We're gonna. We obviously will come up with a snappy title, but this happening. It's a thing now.
Period.
Yeah. No, I
Monthly or
love
quarterly?
Monthly, babe.
Yeah, exactly.
Monthly.
I knew you were gonna like monthly.
Yeah, because just that feeling, that regularity.
Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. How we're gonna end this one.
Okay.
This month we're celebrating my transcript GPA ungraduate to graduate. Okay. What are we celebrating this month for you? And then next time you're gonna tell us the whole story. But just what are we celebrating? Something that you did in the past.
We're celebrating me skipping the country on a week's notice, moving to South Africa with my 8-week-old baby and my 5-week-old daughter. That's what we're going to celebrate.
Oh, I have chills from my ankles to my neck.
And we'll have a whole convo about that.
This story. I know bits and pieces, but I can't wait to hear it fully as a whole again.
Ymane, it's been just magical as ever. And until next time.
Until next time, thank you all for listening.
Thank you for being here with a whole convo with Ella and Ymane.
That is a wrap on this week's convo. We had a blast talking to you.
Thank you for sharing your time, hearts, and minds with us.
We hope this episode left you thinking, feeling, and maybe even breathing a little deeper. If it moved something in you, please share it, text it to a friend, or just sit with it.
Remember, the power of change can start with the simplest convo.
And if you have any comments or thoughts you'd like to share with us, please feel free to do so. We'd love to connect with you. Don't forget to subscribe to our show so you never miss a moment of the magic. And if you're curious about any of our services and offerings, check out the show notes for all the links and goodies. We're so grateful you're on this journey with us. Until next time,
stay rooted, stay whole.